Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap is so beautifully funny and I think really thought-provoking as well. This is, according to the DVD, the 6th episode of the first season of Kirstie Alley's Big Life. According to IMDb, it's the 5th, so it's around about there. And there will be spoilers as I explain what happens in this episode. And this one's a little bit different to the previous ones because not at any point does it focus on Kirstie's weight, which I think is really important because it helps to show that even somebody who is on a weight loss journey has other things in their life, other things that are interesting. And obviously, when it comes to Kirstie Alley, there are many interesting things about her and her life, at least in my opinion. And this one, I wasn't actually sure to begin with where they were going with this, but I can now conclude that it's just tremendous fun. So as I said, there will be spoilers from now as I explain what happens and mention some personal highlights. There are quite a few of them. It starts off with Kirstie gathering everybody in the house and she reveals that she has 17 staff, I think she says, which is absolutely incredible. And she basically tells them that she's going to be them for a week and they get to be her. And over the course of the week, she takes on one of their jobs and they get to pretend to be her. And even when I realised that that's what it was about, I still didn't really know how this was going to unfold. And I can say it's just absolutely perfect. And I feel like everybody should do this. I'd rather not. I don't want to do this with anybody, but it seems like a really great opportunity because Kirstie comes to some really brilliant realizations, but that's at the end of the episode, so I'll talk about that when we get there. I think the best way to describe this episode is just utter madness in the most beautiful way possible. Kyle is actually shadowing her, as Kirstie points out at the beginning of the episode, that Kyle is the only one who doesn't know how to do anybody else's job, which sounds harsh, but the way it was delivered, it was very light-hearted. Everybody laughed, including Kyle, and it was a really nice interaction. And it's nice to have this constant, plus Kyle is just brilliant. I think he's fantastic. But it's nice to have this constant support for Kirstie as she's taking on these different jobs. And there were a couple of moments where I burst out laughing. And the first one is when Kirstie is pretending to be Magdalena, who is her housekeeper. I don't know if that's the term she's using, but certainly that's the role she has. And Kirstie is wearing this sticker across her chest that says Magdalena, so we know who she's being. And while Kirstie is doing one of Magdalena's tasks, Magdalena comes in wearing a wig and Kirstie's white dress, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And as Kirstie is doing this work, she talks a little bit about her past and other jobs that she's had. That's really nice to learn about. And the next person she pretends to be on the next day is Jim. And when we first saw her pretending to be Jim, she actually walked like Jim. And it was just so unexpected and so funny. And also kind of gross, so she had to clean out the pond. And I definitely wouldn't want to do that. Part of me thinks, and I could be wrong about this, but part of me thinks this wasn't Kirstie's idea. It would not surprise me if the production team suggested this as a theme for an episode. And obviously they went along with it. But I could be wrong. Maybe it was Kirstie's idea. But whoever had the idea, I'm very grateful that they did because it's absolutely fantastic. Kirstie then pretends to be Kelly. And I started to get very anxious very quickly because there was a lot going on. Kelly clearly has a lot of responsibilities, a lot of different things to juggle. And there was another bit that made me laugh out loud because Kirstie goes to visit the CEO of Organic Liaison, Peggy. And obviously Peggy is aware of what's happening. But there was one point where Kirstie, as Kelly, was getting really flustered with some paperwork and the various phones that she has, and Peggy just kind of makes this facial expression that clearly says, "What on earth is this madness?" And I think her expression just perfectly sums up my response to the episode. It is just chaos, but in the most exciting way possible. And then Kirstie gets to shovel some poop as she tends to the lemurs, and there's another bit where I laughed out loud where the lemur just jumps onto her face But what's particularly funny about it is that Kirstie doesn't flinch. This is clearly something that happens often, and they're just climbing all over her. And I don't know if lemurs, I know nothing about lemurs. I don't know if they're sociable creatures, if they like to interact with humans, but clearly they're very, very comfortable around Kirstie. And Kirstie clearly loves animals. And speaking as somebody who prefers animals to humans, I absolutely love that about her. So I enjoyed watching that, I think, more than Kirstie enjoyed cleaning out the lemur cage, but it was beautifully, beautifully done. And then we get to the end, and I was devastated, genuinely devastated that it was over. And she then gives this really beautiful speech about how it's given her a newfound appreciation for all of the hard work that people do. And she kind of admitted that maybe even though she'd been a housekeeper and she'd done handiwork and things, she'd kind of forgotten just how difficult it can be, whether that's physically demanding or really time consuming and you kind of have to do a lot of things at once. She kind of realised that actually these are difficult jobs, difficult in different ways. For example, Jim's job is probably very differently difficult to Kelly's job, but they're all challenging, and she really appreciated what they did and acknowledged that they all work really hard at these difficult tasks and they do such a great job with it. And she rewarded them all. I thought she was going to say with a pay rise. I'd like to think that they got a pay rise anyway, but she rewarded them with a massage. And we see her, and again, I thought it was going to be a professional massage. And it wasn't. It was Kirstie giving Jim a massage, and just everybody's facial expressions absolutely fantastic. And what I got from this episode is that it's a real sense of family. And that, yes, as Kirstie referred to them, she is their boss. She does employ these people, but it definitely seems like this great family environment and this tight-knit group. And I'm sure that's the case for some more than others, but it seems like a really beautiful family dynamic, and it's really delightful to see. And it's a very, very funny episode. I don't know what I think my personal highlights, the two bits I loved the most, would be when Magdalena was pretending to be Kirstie. Absolutely fantastic. And when Kirstie was pretending to be Jim, particularly when we first saw that, because she just had his walk spot on. And obviously she's impersonating them, but it's clearly all done out of love. And it's just such a beautiful episode. It was also nice to have a little bit of a break from constantly focusing on weight loss and exercise. Not that I don't enjoy those parts of the episodes, I do, but it was nice to just shift things a little bit and have something a little bit different and very, very funny. Needless to say, I really thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I think it's safe to say Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap is so far my favourite episode of Kirstie Alley's Big Life.